Let's face it, guys, Mohamed Salah is one of the greatest players in the history of the Premier League.
All of us in this room knows him, so he's an exceptional player, an incredible threat.
To talk about Mohamed Salah, he's one of the best players in the world.
He's one of the best players in the world.
Unbelievable. To score that many goals in a season is unbelievable.
He's almost certainly in the top 5. He has won 3 Premier League Golden Boots, 2 PFA Players Player of the Year awards, 1 Premier League Player of the Season, and 1 Premier League Playmaker of the Season award. He also sits in the top 10 all-time highest goal scorers in Premier League history, which is super impressive for a winger.
Here's Mo Salah, he's in!
But you know what shocks us the most about all this? The fact that this same guy was once labelled a Premier League flop, and everybody agreed.
Salah, well, it's not getting any better, is it?
But somehow, he's managed to go from Chelsea reject to Liverpool superstar. You see, before Salah moved to Europe, he was a dazzler in Egypt. But believe it or not, this tremendous talent was only discovered by mistake. A scout came to watch another kid, but was distracted by Salah and ended up selecting him to join the Al Morkaloon Academy. It was a huge deal for him, but he had to sacrifice a lot. He had to journey 3 hours to get to training, which caused him to miss school a lot of times, but he didn't care. Football was his passion, and he was ready to go to the ends of the earth to achieve his dreams of going pro. And he did accomplish that dream. After a year with the youth team, the first team coach noticed him and called him up. He was just 15 years old, so his muscles were not fully formed yet. So they put him on a special diet and training program. Now, if you think his discovery by Al Morkaloon was luck, then your mind might be blown away when you hear how he got his move to Europe. In February 2012, less than 2 years after Salah made his professional debut, there was a stadium riot that led to the death of 74 people, leaving over 500 injured. Because of this, the Egyptian Premier League was suspended, and just a month later, the remainder of the season was cancelled. Following the cancellation, Basel, who'd been monitoring Salah for some time, decided to organize a friendly match against the Egypt under-23s just to see Salah. Salah didn't start that game, but he came on in the second half, scored a brace and helped Egypt win. Basel had seen enough. Just 1 month after the Egyptian league was cancelled, it was announced that Basel had officially signed Mo Salah. But he struggled at the beginning. He was a kid unable to speak the language, so he found it difficult to settle in Switzerland. But what he could speak was football, and boy was he fluent. His first European goals came against Spurs and Chelsea in the Europa League in 2013, and that felt like a sign. He was so good against English teams, so naturally he belonged in the Premier League, right? Chelsea took that hint and signed him in January 2014 for £11 million. He was still only 21 at the time, so it was a smart investment. Mind you, Liverpool also tried to sign him, and they were ready to pay the £11 million Chelsea did. But he chose Chelsea. He thought he'd made the right choice, but he'd soon come to find out that he was so wrong. His first goal for Chelsea came 2 months after he signed, and it came in a big game against Arsenal. Then a couple of weeks later, he was involved in all of Chelsea's goals in a 3-0 win over Stoke, scoring 1, assisting 1, and winning a penalty. It was a decent start for Chelsea's first ever Egyptian player, but his nationality very nearly proved to be a stumbling block for him in his first summer in England. There were reports that he might have to be forced to go back to Egypt for military service. And honestly, that was close to happening until the Egypt national team coach met with the country's Prime Minister and Minister of Higher Education. It was then and only then that Salah was granted an exemption. We thought that a story like that would be followed by an incredible season, but Salah didn't even get the chance. Halfway into the season, he'd only played a total of 30 Premier League minutes. But things got worse for him after he started a round of 16 EFL Cup game against Shrewsbury and was publicly criticised by coach Jose Mourinho for his performances. So, it was decided that the best thing was for him to go out on loan in the January transfer window. So, off he went to Italy. He joined Fiorentina on deadline day on an 18-month loan deal. At Fiorentina, he wore the number 74 to pay homage to the 74 people who died because of that stadium riot in Egypt. Italy very quickly began to feel like home for Salah. In half a season, he managed 9 goal contributions in 16 Serie A appearances. Fiorentina was so impressed that they tried to make the move permanent at the end of that season. but Salah said no. He refused to return to Fiorentina after the summer, even though he still had 12 more months on his contract. So, Chelsea made a loan move to AS Roma happen. It was a one-year, €5 million loan deal with an option to make it permanent for €15 million at the end of the season. That turned out to be one of the best decisions Mo Salah has ever made. You'll find out why we say so very soon. But if you've been enjoying this video so far, kindly take a second to like and subscribe so that you continue to see more stuff like this. Okay, back to the video. At Roma, Salah was brilliant. He had 20 goal contributions in 34 Serie A appearances in his first season. Oh, and he dunked on Fiorentina's head that season, scoring 3 and assisting 1 against them in their 2 meetings. You could just tell that this was a player with fire in his bones. So, obviously, at the end of the season, Roma made the move permanent. Everyone was happy. Roma had just got themselves a fine young player, while Chelsea managed to get money from the departure of a flop. The consensus appeared to be that Salah was a good player, just not good enough for the Premier League, which was why when Liverpool went for him in 2017, everybody called them foolish. Yes, Salah had just finished the 2016-17 season with 28 goal contributions in 31 Serie A appearances. But we all saw him fail while playing for a big club in the Premier League. Why then would you let yourself be swindled again? But Klopp and Liverpool didn't care. They knew what they saw, so they were ready to take the bet on him. They signed him for £43 million, making him one of the most expensive players in the club's history at the time. If they got him for free or for a small amount, it would have been a different case. But at that price, that was such a gamble. But we'll be honest with you, we've never seen a gamble pay off this well and this quickly. Mo Salah hit the ground running at Liverpool. It was the craziest thing anyone had ever seen. He scored on his Premier League debut, Champions League debut, FA Cup debut, and home debut for Liverpool. And he didn't waste any time to establish himself as a big game player for the club. He scored 2 and assisted 1 against Arsenal, scored 3 against Spurs, and scored and assisted against Man City. But perhaps the most significant of the lot was the goal he scored against Chelsea. He didn't celebrate, but that goal felt like a huge middle finger to Chelsea for not believing in him and not even giving him a fair chance to succeed. That season, Salah finished with 32 goals and 10 assists in 36 Premier League appearances for Liverpool. That was enough for him to win the Premier League Golden Boot as well as the Premier League Player of the Season, FWA Footballer of the Year, and PFA Players and Fans Player of the Year awards. And that was not all. The 32 Premier League goals he scored in his first season at Liverpool made him the player with the most goals in a single 38-game season at the time, a record he held until Erling Haaland broke it in 2023. And in the Champions League, Salah was just as exceptional. He scored 10 goals and provided 5 assists in 13 games and was able to lead Liverpool to their first final in 12 years. He notably scored 2 and assisted 2 in the semi-final against AS Roma, continuing a pattern of always scoring against his former clubs. In the final against Real Madrid, Salah picked up a shoulder injury in the first half after a malicious foul from Sergio Ramos. And without him on the pitch, Liverpool were just not able to win the trophy. Anyway, that season, Salah also won the FIFA Puskas Award, was named African Footballer of the Year, and finished 3rd at the Best FIFA Men's Player Awards. It was one of the most insane individual seasons we'd ever seen, arguably the best debut season for a club in Premier League history at the time. Steven Gerrard himself declared that we were witnessing the start of greatness, and he wasn't wrong at all. But some rival fans said it was only a fluke season, and said Salah was a one-season wonder. Well, the Egyptian king laced up his boots and went again the following season. He had 37 goal contributions in 52 games for Liverpool. And this time, he brought the Champions League back to Anfield for the first time in 14 years, scoring the 2nd fastest goal in the history of the UEFA Champions League final against Spurs. Meanwhile, in the Premier League, he helped Liverpool finish 2nd, just a point behind champions Man City, and he won the Golden Boot again. Salah had achieved so much in such a short time at Liverpool, so the fans started to beckon on him to do one more thing for them: bring home the Premier League title. They were thankful for the Champions League, but they'd not won a league title since the Premier League started, and they were so desperate for it. Gerrard, Torres, Suarez, Coutinho, and all the others couldn't do it. But Salah did. He put Liverpool on his back again and led them to their first ever Premier League title, producing 29 goal contributions in 34 appearances. This one-season wonder entered his 5th season with the club still firing. He missed out on the individual awards in the title-winning season and the season after that, but he was back on his grind in the 2021-22 season. Salah scored 23 goals and provided 13 assists in 35 Premier League games that season, which meant that he finished as both the top scorer and top assist provider in the league, winning both the Golden Boot and the Playmaker of the Season award. He also won the FWA Footballer of the Year, PFA Players Player of the Year, and Premier League Goal of the Season awards. On top of all that, he had an insane Champions League run, finishing with 10 goal contributions in 13 games and helping Liverpool reach another final. And let's not forget how Salah formed one of the deadliest attacking trios in Europe, alongside Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino. Because he was just so good at scoring and creating goals, Salah was able to coexist with other attackers. I mean, he and Mane may have fallen out in the final year they were together, but for the most part, they worked magic together. Right now, you won't be too crazy if you say that Salah is the greatest attacker in Liverpool's history. He's also surely up there as one of the greatest players in the history of the club, as well as the history of the Premier League. And even if he moves to Saudi next year, as the rumours suggest, he'd leave England as a legend and an icon. But here's the thing, at the time he was moving to Liverpool in 2017, if anyone had told you that we would be saying all this about Mohamed Salah in 7 years, you would have laughed in their face and called them ridiculous. How could this guy, who couldn't crack it in the Premier League as a youngster, come back and dominate the league in this fashion? Well, he did. This little kid from Egypt went from Chelsea reject to Liverpool superstar. And if you want to know how Cole Palmer did the same thing from Manchester City to Chelsea, click on this link and we'll tell you the whole story. Thanks for watching, and please support the channel by liking the video and hitting the subscribe button.